when you're looking at an organization, and what is the one thing when you look at it and say, okay, they're on the right track, or if not right track, at least their heart is in the right place when it comes to fixing the organization and bringing. So, what are some of which area in a business you would think is a great starting point to create this culture of inclusion and gender diversity? I'm curious to.
Yeah, that's a really excellent question, because it does tend to happen that a company will put it into a silo, and but really it needs to be part of the whole company. It needs to be part of everybody, at least every decision maker's job description. And so that's one of the things that the companies that are successful have done, is that diversity and inclusion, with whatever metrics they choose to use, that becomes part of the manager's evaluation, and they're held accountable for either increasing the amount of diversity on their teams or doing certain programs to help people have more understanding of the various different cultures within the company. So anything, as they say, if you can measure it, you can manage it, right? And if you can't measure it, you can talk about it. And I think the biggest failures have been when there's just talk and no do. So whatever you do, just do it and follow through with it. It doesn't have to be massive, but do it and make it visible. Make it visible and transparent, that people know that you do have that commitment. You know, I think there's also important to it's important to learn how to have uncomfortable conversations. It's important for people to feel comfortable being able to say, you know, that word that you used, or that the way you spoke to me, here's how it made me feel. And this is why, for me, it's I know you're not intending to be discriminatory, but when you make that assumption about me, or when you use that word in describing me, that makes me feel, this is how it makes me feel. So here's an alternative way that you could do that, or get the same idea across. I know, often Black women have said, I always get described as being articulate. Well, you know what? I've got a master's degree. Why wouldn't I be articulate? Is the assumption that because I'm Black that I'm not as articulate as other people? And I mean, it sounds, it's one word, but it makes a big difference. And so for us to understand how our words are affecting other people is important. But if you don't tell me how it makes you feel, I'm not going to know. And so it's uncomfortable sometimes to share those things, but it's important to share those things. So creating a culture where it's safe for people to share how they really are feeling about how people are behaving or speaking can make a very big difference in creating a culture of inclusion and bringing in more diverse people who then hear that the company is a good place for me.
So I was talking to one of the she's a CEO, a diversity CEO for a mid-sized company, retired, and I was talking to her about what are some of her biggest regrets, right? So so she said, obviously getting more women on the leadership, even in my organization. So I asked her, what are some of your struggles? Like, you are a woman, if you are the top, you have the top seat. Why is that an excuse that you cannot do what you want to do? So she said, she raised a very interesting point. So, Vishal, you know what? We plastered diversity, inclusion, equity all over the company website, the mission statement, the resume, the job, whatever, right? But somehow I was not able to see them through. Like so these texts look to many in many of my understanding, these plastered line look to me pretty isolated and lonely on their own corners in those meaningful documentations. While I keep asking, either I get an excuse that either they're not applying either, or there's a inherent bias in sort of sectionality on the leadership, that it's
Mhm.
not letting uh, diversity through. So then I asked her, hey, tell me about your
Mhm.
journey. Like, you have been able to crack this nut. So how? And she said, I moved through my own bubble, right? So I created, as you rightly said, she was connected. You have to be connected. I built my relationships, and that helped pave way for me. But then when I look back, no one is using that channel. No one came. So, and you must have seen this in numerous occasions. So I think what I'm curious to learn from you is, if I'm the leader, I'm that leader who understands and value the
Mhm.
idea of diversity, and I have plastered all over my website and my company mission and vision that we want to be for all, and we don't see somehow all showing up on the leadership ranks. What are some of the some things I could do?
First, you can ask people. It's always best to ask the people who are closest to the problem.
Hmm.
And why aren't they applying?
Hmm.
Why it and understandably, sometimes people are not willing to speak up. Sometimes they're not willing to be truth tellers. But I've always found that the people who are willing to be truth tellers are the very ones that I want to move into the leadership ranks. Because they've got
Hmm.
that courage, they've got that perspective, and they also have the bird's eye view of the whole organization.
Hmm.
So it's a good way of, honestly, it's a good, for me anyway, it's a good way of sorting out the kind of people that I like to work with, because I like people who will speak their mind. I would say that's an interesting case of the woman that you described.
Hmm.
And there is a responsibility, in my view, and this is, you asked if you could call me an activist.
Hmm.
This is when I'm going to put my activist hat on,
Hmm.
because I truly believe that every woman who has reached a leadership position
Hmm.
has the responsibility to bring another woman along proactively.
Hmm.
And if if a woman is already the CEO of an organization, I'm just going to say it can't be that hard. It can't be that hard. It can't be that hard for her to identify, say, a cohort of 5 or 6 women
Hmm.
who could be groomed for future leadership. That can't be that hard. I, you know, I'm. This is where I'm just going to say straight out that this is the kind of thing that I can help companies do,
Hmm.
because in creating a cohort and giving them this kind of training so that they do recognize their value, they do know how to speak for themselves, they do know how to tell their own story, they lose the fear of what might happen. And, women are socialized to be afraid of things.
Hmm.
Women are seriously, I mean, you're socialized from the time you're born to be afraid of things,
Hmm.
to be afraid of going out alone, to be afraid of at night, to be afraid of this, afraid of that. Well, we got to get over that. We got to get over that. We got to grow our courage muscles. We have to learn it's okay to try and fail and pick yourself up and try again. Those are things that you can create training, you can create coaching, you can create safe spaces for people to learn. And if you really are committed to bringing more women into leadership, I'm going to guarantee you it's not that hard. It's just not that hard.